Morning, everyone. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us for the Aruba and EnOcean webinar today. My name is Troy Davis. I'm the VP of Sales for North America here with EnOcean. I've been here for almost 13 years now, and I'm happy to go through this with you today. So you'll see over the next 30 minutes or so kind of what we're going to talk about. We'll go through the little list of agenda, and we'll get started. So I appreciate it again, and I will close my camera now. We'll go straight to the presentation. All right, so first things first, let's just kind of cover the agenda, what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about who is EnOcean, who is the EnOcean Alliance, what does it mean to be a self-powered device or self-powered things within the ecosystem of a building. We're going to talk about Aruba and EnOcean working together and what the two core competencies are and how they blend well. We're going to talk about several current applications that we've been doing for quite a while in different vertical markets. We're going to ask you a couple of questions as the attendees. Then we're going to kind of explain how to see this all work. What can you do to actually demonstrate this in your own office or in your own space, or how can you connect with software providers to have various different ways to pull this data in and review it and do different things like that. We'll talk about some next steps. We'll do some Q&A at the end. So please feel free to send your questions into the chat box throughout the presentation, and we'll be monitoring those and collect those at the end and go through as many as we can. We're going to try and do this in about 30 minutes if we can. So that's my goal, is to get through this as quickly as we can so that we do have time for the Q&A at the end. So here we go. Who is EnOcean? Well, EnOcean's the world leader, the market leader in energy harvesting wireless devices. So we provide self-powered IoT solutions. We've been providing data to the Internet of Things for nearly 20 years. Long before it was called the Internet of Things, we were just providing data for building automation systems and information to make decisions within buildings, things like that. So self-powered means that we can operate without wires or batteries. We harvest energy in a couple different ways. I'll show you that in a minute, how we do that. But the goal is to install devices that have either no batteries or as few batteries as possible. So we do have some devices that can contain a battery if you need it as a backup, but most of our devices operate without batteries. We operate in the 800 or 900 megahertz band, so 868 in Europe, 902 in the US, 928 in Japan. We've got some other options out there as well. We have moved double-digit millions of products, and we're installed in a little bit over 1 million buildings now. And we are a worldwide company, so we're kind of all cover everything. We can do all sorts of different geographic areas in the world. We have staff kind of distributed around the world. And like I said, we've been in business almost 20 years. So we've got a really strong patent portfolio. We've got about 100 patents in multiple different patent families in multiple different countries and parts of the world. So that helps as well. All right, so the next thing is the EnOcean Alliance. So what originally kind of took place was EnOcean came up with this really neat radio standard that operated on self-powered devices, and then companies started using it, but then they started to say, well, what if company A had a standard communication platform that company B could understand? And so they came together, they formed the EnOcean Alliance. And this EnOcean Alliance standardized the radio communication amongst all the EnOcean devices, and now they have a published list of profiles and information and different things. They also handle a lot of the marketing and different communication so that we have real consistent communication out there in the space. It's got about 400 members, give or take, and about 5,000 interoperable products now. So we've been sort of creeping that product number up over the years, and it ranges everything from a restroom service call button to a bus stop button to door and window sensors, and there's a whole variety of different options that are out there. But the main goal of the EnOcean Alliance is to sort of come together and help the EnOcean radio protocol be this open standard that people can use, and it's very openly communicated among the members of how all the communication happens. So it's a nice way to go. So Back to the energy harvesting portion of it, how do we do that? Well, the kinetic energy is anytime we have a device that you interact with, like a light switch or a service call button or any of those, you press or move or do something where there's movement in this device, we can actually harvest that energy with a 2 millimeter movement and use that energy to send the wireless signal out. So we don't need any batteries in any of our switches or any of our service call buttons, any of those things. We also use solar, and solar is often thought of as something that has to go outside on your roof. But in this case, these are engineered and designed to work with either sun or electric light. So we have the choice there. So we definitely work indoors, and the little solar cells that are on the different types of devices, thermostats, and daylight harvesters and other things, anything that's powered by indoor solar, they're all engineered and designed around that electric light as their energy source. Then the third way, and probably the least common of our three ways, is thermal energy, but it's quite a fascinating way to do it. So if you have a temperature differential, so say you have a steam radiator, you can actually use that heat from the steam to produce electricity, which then you can use to power wireless devices. You can even use it to power motors, to open and close valves. There's a whole host of other things you can do there. And the power that comes from thermal energy can be quite substantial, much more than kinetic energy, much more than solar energy. So we're able to get a lot of energy off of that. So that's why we can do motors and other things that way. So EnOcean provides information for all these IoT type systems that are out there. And like I said, we've been doing this long before the IoT even had a name. And so it was, all of it's designed to kind of do all the things that the IoT proclaims to do, which is to kind of provide better services or processes or more information so that you can conserve energy and add some flexibility to your space, or make it easier to be a guest at a hotel, or make it easier to be a worker in a factory, or increase the safety for people within these different spaces and different things. It also is now being used a lot to manage real estate assets. So especially with this whole COVID change and everything, people working from home significantly more, we've kind of come to realize in the real estate management world that some of these larger companies may not need as much space as they have. The only way they can know that is by capturing the data from these various different rooms and different things. And then of course we can reduce the system cost by being wireless and self-powered, so there's no batteries to maintain or anything like that. And then we have, again, this list just kind of keeps going on and growing all the time. Switches, remote controls, occupancy, motion detectors. We have vacancy sensors for Title 24. We've got light sensors, temperature, humidity, air quality, door and window status, position, which is like a handle position of various different things. So yeah, so there's a lot of different options there. One of the most interesting for me is the bus stop version. So inside that bus, they have Wi-Fi, and so they have the connection to the outside world, but they also have the inside of the bus, where typically you'd have a cable running down, somebody would pull the cables get damaged, different things. So actually inside the bus, they were able to create an energy harvesting switch that just bolts right to the poles that you hold onto when you're standing up, and it has a button built into it, no batteries, no wires to it, anything. And that translates to a light for the driver. When somebody pushes the button, the light comes on and says, please stop at the next stop. So pretty interesting, reduces all that cabling and expensive maintenance of all the different ways that works. Oh, that doesn't look good. There we go. All right. So we're going to move on to a quick question in the poll. And so you'll need to go through and just click yes or no on this question. So is there something that you plan to use IoT devices in your upcoming projects? We're just curious kind of how that works. So I'm going to let this run for about 45 seconds. Or so, and kind of see how we go. So if you're listening and you haven't fallen asleep yet, if you could go ahead and click on your screen the yes or no there, that would be great. The question is, do you plan to use IoT devices in upcoming projects? And we can kind of move on as soon as I see I've got most of you have voted now. There we go. So all right, so we're going to go ahead and move on. So yes, most of you are choosing to use IoT devices in upcoming projects. That's fantastic. Of course, we'd love to hear that because we provide those devices. So thank you for answering our question. So next is kind of the core competencies, and I wanted to kind of quickly talk about the EnOcean core competencies, which we just covered, are energy harvesting, wireless, and sensing and control. That's kind of what we do. Then the Aruba partnership that we've got going on now is they've got this incredible infrastructure that's built out in the world. Millions and millions of these access points have been installed. And so they also have the direct connection to the outside world, to the internet. So they've got security features built in. So there's all these really great things that they do. And we've struggled over the years with connecting our stuff to something like Aruba, whether it's Aruba or another program, somehow or another getting connected to the internet. There's always this IT battle, and IT doesn't want them on the network, and there's security issues and other things happening. Well, with the partnership with Aruba, this has all been sort of worked out and solved, because we actually don't need any of our IoT devices to get onto the actual corporate network. This goes through their zero trust infrastructure and goes straight out to the cloud connection that you've established. And there's no actual interaction or connection to the corporate network that is that wherever that Aruba is installed. So if it's installed at Coca-Cola or Google or wherever, we actually don't ever have the energy harvesting and wireless devices touch that corporate network. It always stays separate through the zero trust security setup that Aruba has and passed on to the cloud that way. But we still get that direct connection to the internet, which is great because we require that in order to have a true IoT. So that works there. All right, so what can we do with this? Well, we've got the existing Aruba infrastructure. So for example, if you're an Aruba installer or an Aruba reseller and you have, hundreds or thousands of these access points installed, you can now go to your customer base and say, hey, if we install this little USB stick, it's a USB 500, and we can then bring in all 5,000 EnOcean products. So we can bring in light switches, temperature, humidity, occupancy, which is the PIR sensor there. We can bring in CO2 information. We can know if the windows are open or closed. We can track if people left the door open at a grocery store on a freezer, for example, and we can save energy those different ways. So there's a whole host of different ways that this can happen. And it takes about 2 minutes to set up the Aruba access point after you've plugged in the USB stick. So if we've got this USB stick here, if you plug that into the Aruba access point, and it takes, like I said, about 2 minutes, you assign the IP address in the cloud of where you want it to go, and it automatically kind of handles all of the zero trust security portion and hands that right through to the cloud access point that you need. And so it's really been a great solution there, because these USB sticks are very low cost. So your gateway cost and your hardware cost to add all of this IoT capability to an existing Wi-Fi network is very inexpensive. So, all right, let's go to the next one here. This is highlighting, I'm going to highlight three quick examples, and we're just going to go through kind of what some of our more popular applications are that we've been seeing. So schools and smart lighting. So one of the things that we've found is that schools absolutely love our self-powered sensors and switches. So you can upgrade a school with new LED lighting, drop a controller into those lights, and that's the LED RU that's pictured there on the screen. We can then take the ESRPU, which is a single rocker pad or single rocker wireless switch, put that on the wall, and a wall-mounted occupancy sensor. Those three pieces really are all you need for the complete system there. But if you want to connect that to the cloud, I don't even know how many schools out there in the world have Aruba systems, but one of the bigger ones that we're working in, Los Angeles School District, has an Aruba gateway or Aruba access point in every single classroom. So we're able to actually bring that data back to the headquarters for Los Angeles School District and be able to see what that information is. It provides them with access to what's the temperature in that classroom, what does it look like in that classroom as far as occupancy goes, how often are they using it, what about the multi-purpose rooms, are those empty all day, what's happening with all that space. So they can get a lot of information, valuable information out of that connection to the Aruba access point there. So another one that's been pretty interesting that we've found is we have this new vibration sensor, and we call it a vibration sensor, but it really has an accelerometer in it. So by putting this accelerometer on the back of office chairs, it's a solar powered device, so it just uses the lights in the space to power itself. But if you monitor the office chair usage, you can provide more accurate people counts than you can with just PIR or other motion detectors, because if you detect motion in there, that's great, but you don't know if it's 1 or 2 people, you don't know if it's 10 people. But if you have 25 chairs in there and all 25 chairs are moving, you know you have 25 people. If only 6 of the chairs are moving, you know that you only have 6 people in there. So it's pretty interesting. And then the cloud systems then can guide people to those open workstations within those spaces. So this is kind of becoming popular with some of the hot desking type applications. Microsoft headquarters does something similar to this, where they're tracking and providing the open desk information on the app for the actual employees. So so that's been an interesting thing. And this vibration sensor is really interesting because it not only does the accelerometer, but it also has temperature, humidity, light level, and door and window contact if you needed it. So you can use that for a variety of different things. I'll show you a picture of that in just a minute. Another thing we can do is multi-site data tracking. There's data from all sorts of sites can be displayed. So you can have convenience stores, grocery stores, banks, whatever, has lots of different sites. And you can then bring in this information to a single point and start to view it so that you can see, oh, okay, so over here in Pico River, we have a problem. So let's click on that and it'll tell us, okay, the problem is the food storage temperature is 1 degree above safe numbers, therefore someone needs to go manage that in the space, right? So these can actually, using various different software packages, you can actually have this send you a text message or an email, or you can escalate it and start with an email, and then if it doesn't get managed quick enough, then you can move to a text message, and there's different things that can be done there. With EnOcean controls, you can actually also add the control portion of that back, so you could handle that automatically if you had the system correctly installed and set up. Okay, so a couple just kind of brainstorming to give you some ideas of what we do and what's out there and available, and then we'll get into the next quick question. And so there's various different things that people use our technology for. One of them is kind of industry, and we've got this company that created this cable harness sensor that has energy harvesting on one end, receiver in the other, and when you push it on there, it's got to send it through the wires on that board there. It's hard to see, but it's essentially a cable harness for a car, and this verifies that all the wires go to the right spot and they're all terminated correctly and everything's good, and it's all energy harvesting, so there's no maintenance for that portion of this test, and it just makes kind of the automotive industry work well. It's a very popular application for us in our European car factories. So then, of course, we can do environmental monitoring, whether that's indoor or outdoor, but we do have the ability to monitor outdoor spaces, farms, agriculture, soil moisture sensor. There's all sorts of different types of sensors we can do there. And again, that bus stop is kind of one of those interesting things. A very similar device to this. So this actually, you can see there screwed onto the pole. It's just screws onto the pole, so there's nothing else to it. There's no wire behind it. It doesn't go anywhere. It just has the energy harvester and the button and the radio in it. So it's very simple, very easy. This can also be used for a restroom service button. If you have a restroom that needs attention, you can have a, please service the restroom type button there. You can have it at a factory to indicate that your buckets of supplies are almost empty, so you can hit the button, and because it has a unique ID, you actually know which bucket might need parts, and then you can know what to carry to that station. So anyway, a couple different things. So here's the next quick question. Which IoT application matters to you most? And we're going to do this, we're going to let this run again about 45 seconds. And so social distancing, desk utilization, built environment, meaning temperature and humidity, assisted living or aging in place or elder care, and then energy savings. So if, again, if I haven't put you to sleep yet, if you could hit the button there on your screen, that would help to indicate kind of where the focus, it'll help us guide us to kind of the focus of where our customers are looking at. So we've got most of you, it looks like, have voted now, a couple more. Perfect, we'll let it run another 10 seconds here. And very good. All right, so let's go ahead and close that. It looks like we've got the most interesting. So the building environment is the number one kind of IoT application that matters to those who are attending here today. So that's interesting. I would have kind of leaned a little bit towards energy savings is what I would have thought the answer would be. So it's good to know. So we do have lots of options for the built environment: temperature, humidity, air quality. There's a whole host of things that we can do for that. So at the end of the day, what does all this mean, and how can I actually use the Aruba access points to enable my IoT? What is this? How do I do it? Kind of is the true question. So very first thing is EnOcean has these subsidized kits. So they're not, you just buy the kit. It's not quite the same as if you were buying each piece individually. We're subsidizing them a little bit to get them out there as much as possible. This includes the USB stick that you plug into the Aruba access point. It includes a temperature and humidity sensor. It includes a door monitor, and it includes a light switch. So and a multi-sensor, of course, that gives you the illumination and the acceleration and all those different pieces as well. So then we also provide software for this first application. So we're not getting into a full software business where we're going to control your space and monitor your buildings and different things. But this software in particular runs on your PC. It connects to your Aruba access point with the USB stick in it. And we pull the data in real time, live, up to the second, so you can see what the sensors are seeing. You can play around with the sensors, you can heat them up, you can cool them down, you can throw them outside, inside, whatever, and you'll see that real data here on the screen. And we trend it and chart it just like it shows here, but then we also give you the ability to actually break down the data itself in those last communications. So you can see here from the multi-sensor, temperature was 27.3, humidity, light level, magnet contact, and then the 3 accelerometers, the 3-axis accelerometer. And why did it transmit? Well, it was a timed update. So we knew that when we got to the end of the time, there was a heartbeat window there, so we transmitted that. So that's that. And then there are a few application level things where we can actually see a window open and close, or a door open and close, that type of thing. So that's taken place in this software as well. It's very simple. Takes me as just a sales guy 5 minutes to set it up on my own. So a person with Aruba experience can knock it out very, very quickly and get it all set up. It's very straightforward and simple, so not a problem to set this up. And this software is included with the EISKU kit, and so when you pick one of those up from any of the various distributors, you can actually bring that in and have the kit in the hardware kit with you, and then you'll just download the software from our website along with the instruction guide, and you're good to go. So where does all this data go? At the end of the day, the data has got to go somewhere and be evaluated or be analyzed or be visualized by someone. So we work with a lot of different partners. We've got, of course, we function in the Microsoft Azure world, which is an interesting one because some people are just using it for cloud storage. Some people are actually using the applications that are built inside Azure. So there's different levels of Microsoft that we work with. Microsoft is a promoter member of the EnOcean Alliance, which is great. That's helping keep the standard moving forward and growing. And then we work with IBM, which is a great partner as well. And we've got partners such as Losant, which does some really cool software management for apartment buildings, multifamily, large installations, very, very large things. And then Amazon Web Services, of course, can be the cloud storage for any of these different things. And then there's companies like Titanium Intelligent Solutions that they do all of the things. So they will actually provide the EnOcean hardware and the software that goes with it connected through the Aruba access points. So they'll provide the IoT portion, meaning the things in the space, which basically says, here's the different devices that go with what you're trying to do. And then they use the Aruba access points or the Aruba infrastructure to bring that data back to their software in their cloud. And then they can do the people counting and the radiator or heat management in extremely old, very challenging buildings. They've got some good experience there. They can do occupancy status and real estate asset tracking and multisite and all the things that we've talked about, including leak detection, which we didn't talk about, but it's a very interesting one. You can run this leak detection rope on the floor of any places where there's not supposed to be water. And whenever water is detected, you can actually trigger a message, whether it's a text message or some sort of information that will broadcast out that says, hey, somebody needs to deal with this because there's water on floor 17 of an apartment building and it's not supposed to be there. So what do we do? And then if you've got it enabled, you can actually turn the valve off to those spaces. Then we've got companies like Magnum Innovations, which do a similar kind of setup. They do a lot of lighting control, a lot of building control. They can do some people counting. They have both hardware and software as well, and they can work through the Aruba access points or have their own hardware, which Titanium actually, I should mention, has their own gateways as well. If you wanted to do a project without the Aruba included, Titanium can do that as well. And then we've got a partner in the UK who's growing and expanding into the United States, which is IA Connects. They do a lot of assisted living, elder care. They do a lot of leak detection and hot desking, flex desk software, that type of thing. And then they work with a lot of air quality as well. So CO2, and they've got some other ways to track PM 2.5 and some other things. So with all of that said, I tried to stay under 30 minutes where it looks like we're right there. So let's ask a couple of questions. I'm going to move to this screen here for the questions. Let me go to the question box. So first question that we've got is, let's see. So yeah, if you go to the chat box, you can type in your question there and we'll manage those from that. The first question is, which Aruba access points is this compatible with? So any Wi-Fi 5 or Wi-Fi 6 Aruba access points with a USB port, including their IAPs or instant access points these days, those are all compatible with the EnOcean setup and can pass the data through. They are something that somewhere around 10 million of those in the field actually distributed and out there in the space. So there's quite a few out there that are capable of this. And the only thing you have to do is upgrade their firmware to Aruba operating system 8.7, I believe it is. So as long as you upgrade to the latest firmware, which is all done over the network, then you're good to go. So next question that we have here is, where do I buy the starter kit? So good question. The starter kit is available from multiple different places. You can get it from any of the various different groups, typical distributors like Future, or you can get it from Ingram Micro, you can get it from Rutronic, you can get it directly from any of the software suppliers as well, like Titanium Intelligent Solutions or Magnum or any of those. So there's a wide variety of ways. The easiest way to find your best choice is to email IoT@EnOcean.com, which is on your screen right here. And we will help you kind of work with those things. So next question looks like it's, what about Niagara framework capability? So there's a couple things here with Niagara framework. So the very short answer is yes, it's compatible with Niagara Framework, but it really ultimately depends on the software package that you're using. So if you're using Magnum Energy Solutions, for example, they have a great BACnet compatible system, and they work closely with Niagara to make sure that that compatibility exists. And Titanium can also do the same thing. So they do have the ability to connect those two things. And there's possibly even a way that in a building where you needed Niagara Framework capability, you could pull that data not into the cloud, but you would pull it to a local server, which then would connect it to the local Niagara Framework in that building. Depends on the vintage of the building and what their capabilities are, but yes, that's something that we can do. All right, so then it looks like a couple of the other questions I've answered here in the presentation, and so we'll do that. Oh, here's one that we didn't answer, and I might need Alex to share the answer to this, but can I get a copy of this presentation? So from my opinion, I would say yes, but Alex, what do you think?
Yes, absolutely, we can send it out.
Okay, perfect. All right, thanks. Okay. So I think that's it. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email address is at the bottom of this page here, troy.davis@enocean.com. I'm happy to help and answer questions, whatever. I've kind of been down most of these roads, so I'm happy to work with you kind of to brainstorm some different projects and different things. But also, you know, we can just, I can also introduce you or connect you to the various different things. One more quick question just came through that I'm going to answer because I think it's a good question and it's important. What does the software look like, the EnOcean one, and does Aruba have an embedded web server? So Aruba doesn't capture or save any of this data. So Aruba passes this data through to your software choice. So there's the, let's see if I can go back here a couple screens really quickly. This is what our software looks like. This is the demo software. And every company who does this software package portion does it their own way. And a lot of times it's customized for the actual individual application. So you might have a specific way that you want to show it, and most of the software companies, because it's software, it's easily manipulated into what you're looking for, so they can make adjustments and changes and different things. So, but to answer the question, which is what does the software look like, this is the EnOcean demo software, and we can see it again here as well. This is also the demo software, and then the Aruba access point does not have an embedded web server around the EnOcean's portion. They, of course, have their own web access that you go in and log in and manage the access point, but they don't have anything on the EnOcean side because they don't save any of this, and they do that on purpose. They don't want to have any way for any of this data to maintain in their access points. They want to just pass it along to the cloud as quickly as possible. So hopefully I answered all your questions, and again, feel free to reach out to me at any time or any of our team, IoT@EnOcean.com or troy.davis@EnOcean.com. We are definitely happy to help and look forward to kind of seeing where some of these different applications go and what we'd be looking at. So thanks everyone for your time. We really appreciate everything, and yeah, we'll talk to you on the next one. Oh, quick thought. We do have the next webinar, which is, I believe, September 12th. And I believe it'll be similar to this webinar where we'll be talking about Aruba. We might get more specific into individual applications versus kind of the overview, but we will have that one on September 12th. So